The MAGA wing of the United States Supreme Court, in a brand new ruling, has just ruled to disenfranchise, take away the right to vote to more than 42 people in Virginia as part of a purge operation that, according to the Biden administration, the Virginia legislature and election officials have been conducting illegally. I'm Michael Popok. This is Legal AF. Let's break it all down for you here. Virginia, within 90 days of the election, decided that they were going to purge their voter rolls, get rid of non-citizens who were on the voter rolls as being eligible to vote. Now, I'm in favor of that. I'm not in favor of non-citizens voting. However, within that group, there were at least, as determined by a federal judge, at least 42 people, if not more, who were actually citizens who were eligible to vote, who had been swept off in the purge. There's another problem with the purge, as was outlined to a federal district judge in Virginia, Judge Giles, and to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals that sits over Virginia and agreed with Judge Giles, is that nothing was verified. They were using the Department of Motor Vehicle rolls where people were identifying or self-identifying as being citizens, matching that up against voter rolls and just taking their name off. Well, there were at least 42 examples where actual citizens were taken off the voter rolls. And when Judge Giles heard that, she said, stop. First of all, voter rolls for registration are not the polls. Just because you're on a voter roll doesn't mean you're eligible to vote. And if you do vote illegally, you're subject to being prosecuted. So there are safeguards along the way. And she said to the election officials from Virginia, you're telling me that there's 42 people, or the Biden administration offered, there are 42 people that are American citizens that are authorized to vote that were taken off in the purge? Stop. We'll sort all this out after the election. Everybody stays on the rolls, was Judge Giles' decision. Not particularly, she wasn't saying that illegals can vote or people who don't have proper immigration status or U.S. citizenship can vote. All she was saying is, let's not F around with the polls. The voter rolls. We'll deal with it at the polls. We'll deal with it with the election officials at the appropriate time. But she wasn't willing to risk 42, at least, Americans being denied the right to vote so close to an election. She also was applying the law that applies in this particular area. In 1993, the National Voter Registration Act made it a crime and illegal for any state within 90 days of the election to make any kind of systemic or systematic changes to voter rolls. Because that's what they used to do in the 90s. They used to dump off actual voters from voter rolls to impact the Democrats in this case. And then the election would already happen. The votes would already be in the trash can. And then they would resolve it later. So there has to be a quiet period under the National Voter Registration Act of at least 90 days. And these acts by Virginia to take 1,600 people off the voting rolls is within the 90-day quiet period. To which the election officials argued to the United States Supreme Court, well, you have your own doctrine. You have a legally created, a judicially created doctrine we refer to as the Purcell principle or the Purcell doctrine, which says that federal courts should stay out of elections within 30 days of an election, or as it gets close to an election. And so courts often use that as an excuse not to get involved, or even when there's voter fraud or a state acts out against voters for voter suppression, they hands off, can't do anything about it this election, come back to us after the election under this Purcell principle. So here was the intersection or the loggerheads between the Purcell principle and the National Voter Registration Act. Which one was going to apply? Well, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which sits over Virginia, they agreed with Judge Giles in the way she balanced those two principles and found that they should stay on the rolls and it'll get sorted out later. Let everybody vote that thinks that they can vote if they're on the rolls, and let the election officials sort it out later. Creatine isn't just for the guys or athletes anymore. Whether you're a woman looking to tone, a guy looking to bulk, a sleep-deprived parent looking for an energy and cognitive boost, or a grandparent looking to maintain or build muscle, creatine gummies can help. Maybe you know you should be adding creatine to your wellness routine, but you've heard the myths about bloating and hair loss or are afraid of the loading phase. The reality is, those myths are not backed by the science. Proper creatine supplementation through Create results in no bloating, no cramping, and no hair loss. I found a new way to cut out that second or third cup of coffee in the morning, and it's through creatine. Trust me, I never would have believed it until I tried it. But I'm getting so much energy and focus from my favorite Create creatine gummies that next cortado is no longer calling my name. Create delivers creatine through gummies, not powders like other brands. Create gummies are tasty, no mess, efficient, easy to take, travel well, and there's no loading phase. Create's creatine gummies are NSF certified for sport, so athletes can take it without any worries about testing flags. Use CreaPure. They're third-party tested, made in the USA, vegan, non-GMO, and have 100% natural ingredients with 1.5 grams of creatine monohydrate per gummy. Create's gummies are convenient. Take them anywhere. And they taste great, so it's easy to stay consistent. So you get the long-term benefits of using creatine. Create comes in 4 fantastic flavors: orange, blue raspberry, watermelon, and sour green apple, a customer favorite. If you're like me, you take your health and wellness seriously and are looking for a safe extra boost. And with Create, I have found a simple gummy way to body health, and I can see the results. Get 30% off any subscription or one-time purchase of Create 90 count bags at trycreate.co/legalaf. That's trycreate.co/legalaf for 30% off your order. They were troubled by the fact that there was no verified information. It was just photocopies off the Department of Motor Vehicle records being compared to voter rolls. It was a very sloppy process with not a lot of integrity, and that concerned the judge when you're talking about voting. To the Supreme Court and their ruling, no. They have stayed Judge Giles' decision and the decision of the Fourth Circuit, meaning 1,800 people or 1,600 people are coming off the voter rolls, including, at least we know of, 42 Americans. And that's a problem. We don't know exactly why the Supreme Court did that, or the 6-3 majority. There's no opinion. It's just one paragraph. We'll put it up on the screen. We know that 3 people dissented: Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan, but there's no opinion, there's no analysis. We don't know what it was. All the Supreme Court majority is telling us is that the stay is in place, the rolls get purged. We assume they're applying the Purcell principle or Purcell doctrine, and we'll deal with it on the other side. In other words, we'll decide whether we're even going to take this appeal in the future. If we take the appeal, then the stay, we'll figure out the stay if we agree with Virginia or not. If we don't take the appeal, the stay will be taken off, and that last decision by the Fourth Circuit and Judge Giles will apply to future elections, but not now. And that's the reporting we got right now. What we're watching is a Supreme Court who's struggling. He says it doesn't want to be involved in electoral matters, doesn't want to be involved in voting, but that's all they're doing. Just yesterday, they ruled against RFK Jr. In his attempts to take himself off the ballot in battleground states that mattered to Donald Trump because he didn't want to drain the vote away from Donald Trump. And now you have the Supreme Court saying, sure, Virginia, take 1,600 people off your voter rolls, even if it has 42 Americans on there who are properly registered. Who cares? We'll deal with it on the other side of the election. It's that cavalier attitude of the Supreme Court that drives me absolutely up the wall, but we have to continue to follow it. There's a lot of voter cases going on. There's more than a dozen that have been filed around the country, mainly by Republicans who are already trying to argue that there's a fraud in the vote, that the vote is being stolen. And we're not even 1/3 of the way through voting, and all of a sudden there's fraud in the election already, and stop the steal. We need, as the other side of this equation, we need to have a result here. We need to have a election return for Kamala Harris that's so big, that's so great, that it'll go beyond them attempting to try to stop the steal. Well, continue to follow it right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. You're at the intersection of law and politics right now. We're there every day, every hour. Come on over to our new YouTube channel that we're doing in collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network. It's called Legal AF. You can find it at Legal AFMTN. I'm curating that channel at the intersection of law and politics and bringing you some amazing Meidas contributors, but also some new people and new entities you haven't even heard of yet. We're all doing it right there on Legal AF MTN. So until my next hot take, my next Legal AF podcast, or Legal AF, the YouTube channel, I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.